a judge has overturned the agreement that had been set up having to do with OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma, saying that the individual members of the Sackler family who own the corporation cannot in fact be shielded from all legal challenges to them individually. So let's catch up a little bit on what this change is, why it's so important. This is US District Judge Colleen McMahon said that the controversial provision, which we will describe, to grant the Sackler family members immunity from thousands of lawsuits over the public health crisis of opioids is inconsistent with the US bankruptcy code, disagreeing with the court that had approved the approximately $4.5 billion agreement in the fall. Okay, so let's catch up a little bit. So how did we get to the agreement and what does this actually mean? Purdue Pharma back 2 years ago declared bankruptcy, and that stopped, at least temporarily, thousands of lawsuits against it. So 2 years later, a New York judge confirmed a plan that had been approved by a majority of creditors who voted. Purdue would be dissolved and would come back as a new company called Noah Pharma that would still produce OxyContin, but also other drugs. The company's profits would go to states and communities to fund opioid treatment and prevention efforts. As part of this new reformation of the company, the Sacklers would renounce their ownership, eventually sell their foreign pharmaceutical companies as well, and contribute $4.5 billion of their money to state and local opioid abatement funds. In exchange for all of that, all lawsuits pending against Purdue, as well as them individually, would be effectively barred in the future. They would be legally shielded as a result of the agreement that they had been a part of it. And as a weird extra addition, they wouldn't be able to use their name to future charitable gifts for 9 years. That's a weird thing. Anyway, now that deal might seem really harsh, $4.5 billion, the company is gonna be reformed and all that, but they already made tons of money. There are very good reasons to believe they knew what they were doing. The idea that only the corporation and not the individuals running it and profiting from it should face any legal liability for a crisis that has killed thousands and countless thousands of people was, I think, unacceptable to a lot of people. And in theory, we have to see what happens after this US district judge decision. This could open up a little bit of legal liability at the individual level in the future. Now, Brett, what do you think about this?
This is one of those very difficult to digest stories because, and I hate to say the word nuanced, but it is overturning the settlement that says, here's a bunch of money to pay for what we did wrong. There's a lot of specifics of like delivery of cash that has been changed along the, in different complaints people are having as a result of this. Is it better in the long term for the Sackler family, or like more just in the long term for them to pay this money now and be gone from the company, or have to go back through the settlement process where they would pay potentially less now and open themselves up to future lawsuits going forward? I don't know. I don't know. And you're gonna have to sort through all that, sift through all that. Is it better or worse for them? There's gonna be a lot of people complaining about this that don't mean it. A lot of people not complaining about it who you should be skeptical of. So in the long term, I think what's happened with the general opioid crisis is something like this. There were some really horrible, terrible, nefarious, money-hungry acts by some people who pretended that this was a wonder drug that should replace a bunch of other things. In the wake of it, it ruined millions and millions of people's lives and ended millions of people, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people's lives. In the wake of it, we have a situation where you got a lot of people who are complaining about how they can't get it and they think that they really do need it, that are wrong for reasons such as it has tricked their body into thinking that it needs this. And then also, on the other hand of it, you have people who actually do need these medications, and it's difficult for them to go and get them. It's more difficult. The entire system, because of the acts, in my belief, of the Sackler family and similar weird, horrible pharmaceutical plays, resulted in so many people's lives getting absolutely ruined so that they can make an extra buck. And there's people right now in pain who need that medication who can't get it.
Yeah.
And there's other people who sound the exact same who've been turned into addicts. It is such a mess, and I feel so horrible for everyone in all parts of that equation.
Yeah, and by the way, some people probably They might be satisfied with the agreement and think that, reopening up lawsuits and potentially putting on hold that agreement could mean that sure, more money will come, but it will be delayed. So it's certainly complex. And that's, by the way, the argument that Purdue is making. So they put out this statement, which is just the most corporate statement ever. While the district court decision does not affect Purdue's rock solid operational stability or its ability to produce its many medications safely and effectively, it will delay and perhaps end the ability of creditors, communities, and individuals to receive billions in value to abate the opioid crisis. That's, again, no liability, no, we knew what we were doing and we did it because, as Brett said, we wanted to make another buck, even though we're literal billionaires already. Right. Imagine
that's the quote I was talking about.
Killing people for money when you're a billionaire. You literally can't buy anything else. There's nothing else for you to buy. You're like, people kill 20 or 50,000 people this year. Absolute madness. By the way, they're worth about $11 billion. So there was I think it was this last season on John Oliver. He did a great episode on the Sackler family. He's done several on the opioid crisis. And he talked about one of the reasons that people were frustrated with this agreement was that on the timeline that had been set out for them to give the money, they would actually be richer at the end of it than they had at the beginning, despite the $4.5 billion. Like, because they're individually shielded and it's corporate money, they're contributing a bit, but it's not even cutting into the money they'll be making during that time. Anyway, there's more details there if you want to find out about it, but he can describe some of the reason that some people were frustrated by this agreement. Any final thoughts?
No. You felt like I went over earlier and I just want to make it up to you.
Okay, buddy. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.